Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast, the midweek edition of the pod. We're going to focus on a heavy Tuesday night action in the NHL. Currently sitting here on a Monday evening watching primetime hockey. San Jose Sharks visiting the Winnipeg Jets. Coming off a busy NHL slammed packed weekend. Wild action all over the place. My betting account was all up and down. A lot of back-to-back games for teams coming off the Four Nation. You can tell teams like Edmonton really struggling to get back on in their groove, getting pasted by the Flyers and pasted by the Capitals. So really, really impactful, and we're hoping that the Tuesday night, at least one day off for some of these teams still on the road, may make a difference. So here we are. Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. We are a sports betting podcast. These picks are purely for fun, so this is entertainment value, nothing more, nothing less. And we are a square version of a sports betting podcast that doesn't necessarily take all the information into account to look at sports from, let's say, a hardcore edge perspective. We do bet on those games that may appear on TV. We may bet on those late night games because it's the last one on the schedule. We're common better, just like you are. We're the ultimate square. So welcome to the podcast. Continue on. Join us on X at Overrated EXPER2. That is Overrated EXPER2. And stick with the Overrated Experience on Instagram and Facebook at Overrated Experience. So we're going to have a quick podcast, a little run through, talking about Tuesday night action. Not every game I'm going to give a bet on, but I'm going to give you, based on the DraftKings odds, some plays that I think are worth considering and looking at, and something we'll be looking at going into tomorrow. Well, it kicks off with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have come off 2 victories off of the Four Nations. So they've actually been one of the successful teams. They're coming off a win on Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes, although almost choking. Knocking off the Blackhawks last night, although closer than you probably thought. They head into Boston to take on the struggling Boston Bruins. The Bruins are kind of a shadow of what they were, and they are on the outside looking into the playoffs. And just a little quick point before we talk about this game. One of the odds that stuck out to me, so we're talking about teams to make the playoffs. Did you know that Boston is at plus 230 to make the playoffs? And we're talking about a team with the reputation of the Bruins that is 1 point out of the final wild card spot. Right now, if you think that the Boston Bruins are going to turn it around, make the playoffs, plus 230 may be the best you get for value. Time to jump on that bandwagon. Brady Marchand, Pasta, all those boys, can they do it? They're a strong organization. There's value in that play for sure. So the Boston Bruins try to get back on track after a devastating loss to the Ducks on Saturday, called out in this podcast, by the way. And they take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, here is a spot where the Leafs were coming off of a couple wins in a row off the Four Nations, and they head into Boston. The Boston Bruins always play the Maple Leafs very tight. And I don't care how these teams are trending going into this matchup. I see true value with the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road in Boston. Boston plus 120 on this one. I like the Bruins. The value here is on the plus 120 Bruins, not the minus 142 Leafs. So if you're going to take a pick here, take the Boston Bruins and leave it at that. Moving on to the hot President's Trophy leading Washington Capitals. Ovi, 18 goals away from Gretzky's record. Hat trick last game. He's on fire. The Caps are on fire. Calgary comes to town off a 3-2 win over the San Jose Sharks, who I'm watching go to the power play right now here in Winnipeg. Winnipeg, second best team in the NHL points-wise, and not really looking like it right now early in the second period. But Calgary Flames get on a plane, visit the Washington Capitals. What are the Calgary Flames? They're gamers. They're playoff contenders. I see this game going 5.5 over. Again, the push to get Ovi goals. They've been pumping some goals in the last couple games. Take the over at minus 125. Over 5.5. Moving on to the Canadian side of the border, the Montreal Canadiens coming off a break off the Four Nations, back in the win column over the Ottawa Senators, a depleted Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes almost came back against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Couldn't quite do it, but I like the -1.5 puck line here for the Carolina Hurricanes. News note, the Montreal Canadiens still suck. They cannot hang with top contending teams. I can't imagine Rob Brindamore being unprepared and losing 2 in this swing right here. I just don't see it. But we'll see. It's going to play out. But I believe it's going to play out that it's going to be a whole lot of scoring for Carolina and a whole lot of watching goals go in for Montreal. Moving on to the Dallas Stars and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Traditional hockey matchup, you can say. Maybe not right, really, but 2 decent hockey clubs so far this season. But what stands out in this matchup is the value I see a Matt Duchene, Dallas Stars center Matt Duchene, who's 4 consecutive games of 2 points or more. Right now, if he can do a 5th, he can extend it to a 5th game of 2 points or more. It's plus 300. There is value there. Matt Duchene, 2 points or more for the Dallas Stars against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Here's a money line I do like. The Anaheim Ducks take on the Buffalo Sabres. The Anaheim Ducks are rolling. They did lose in Detroit last night in overtime. Patrick Kane got the winner. But this Ducks team's going, right? They came there before the Four Nations. They were on a bit of a heater and knocking off Boston on the weekend in a tough road matchup. They head into Buffalo, who's not been too bad themselves in the last. They pasted the Rangers. Didn't see that coming, but they really smacked them around. But I do see the value here on the Ducks. The Ducks are really moving. They're playing competitive. They're playing decent teams, knocking off the Kings before the Four Nations, and then, like I said, going to Boston off the Four Nations and getting a win there. So keep the Ducks value plus 164 over the Buffalo Sabres. Nothing on the Pittsburgh-Philly game. Some games here I just can't get a read on. Hockey is tough, I'm not going to lie. Edmonton-Tampa Bay. Edmonton is struggling. They're getting lit up in the last couple games. They are, Connor McDavid, top player in the world, probably on the tank on empty, had to play in a back-to-back games, and you can really see the games getting away from the last, late in both those games. However, I do see them being a little more competitive in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's up and down as far as goals in a game, but Oilers are a track meet, whether they got game or not. Maybe they're giving up 8 goals, whatever, 6 goals. I don't care, because I like the over 6.5 plus 110. Big time value here. So take the over there. Passing on the Rangers Islanders games, probably snooze fest on that one. Florida Nashville, nothing to say on that. We do have a pick on the Minnesota Detroit. Detroit is in Minnesota. This is a back-to-back against Detroit for the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Wild, while the Red Wings did play the Ducks last night, so it's not exactly a back-to-back, but playing the Wild in the short term. The Wild won in overtime on their previous matchup on Saturday night. And I think this game is going to be another high-scoring game. That game ended 4-3 in overtime. This is over 5.5 at minus 125. So take the over. Seattle, St. Louis, yawn. Not going to touch that. Now, this is kind of like I talked about a shit show when goals are going to start going in. So I really think that this Chicago Blackhawk, Utah hockey club is going to result in plenty of goals. Kind of a shit show going on. I know that the Utah Hockey Club squeezed by the Vancouver Canucks yesterday, 2-1, I think, whatever it was, a low-scoring game, but that's Canucks more than it is the Utah Hockey Club. And what we'll see is a difference in this game, as this game will probably be like 6-4. Blackhawks are a terrible team, not great at all. Really don't know where they're going. They got Connor Bedard, obviously, but still struggling a lot to score, not score goals, but just get anything solid or anything, any confidence that they're moving forward in the right direction. So that's the Tuesday night busy card in the NHL, and from a betting perspective, and just to kind of check in where we're at on some of the futures out here. Top 5 betting favorites in to win the Stanley Cup include the Edmonton Oilers plus 600 lead the way. Do you see them winning the Stanley Cup? Man, they went to 7 games against the Florida Panthers, but came up short. I don't know about that. I just can't see Connor McDavid raising a Stanley Cup, unlike a Four Nations Cup with the surrounded talent he had surrounding him. Next up, the Carolina Hurricanes plus 650. Okay, maybe. Florida, defending champions plus 800. There's probably value there. Like, this team is going to get healthy when Matthew Tkachuk comes back. And they're going to, mark my words, they're going to make another run. The Dallas Stars are intriguing, plus 900 in the Western Conference. Really, the Edmonton Oilers stand their way, I guess, based on the odds. And rounding it up, the Toronto Maple Leafs at plus 1,100. That's not bad for a team that hasn't reached the third round since when? That's right, long time ago, when this man was a young boy. So take that for what you will. See if there's value. Maybe now's the time to take it. And just also on the futures market when it comes to the current Hart Trophy leading candidates in the NHL, that's for the NHL MVP. You have Leon Draisaitl, who's got 40-plus goals at minus 140. Big-time leader in the clubhouse so far when it comes to the Hart Trophy odds. And then followed by Nathan MacKinnon, Colorado Avalanche, plus 300. Connor Hellebuck, goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets, plus 360. Now, you got to think that if the Winnipeg Jets do wind up winning the President's Trophy, that defensively, Connor Hellebuck may be carrying the show, and he may jump to the front as time goes on. So that might be valuable now. And Nikita Kucherov for the Tampa Bay Lightning's plus 1,000, kind of well back. And Connor McDavid at plus 1,500. Will he turn it on? Will he catch on fire? I don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But if he catches on fire, will he really surpass Leon Draisaitl, his teammate? That's a tough one to consider. So that is the Tuesday night card for the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast NHL edition midweek. Pleasure's all been yours. Overrated Experience is over, and it's out. Bye-bye.